"Mommy, Daddy has a lover and they're going to take all your money." The words came out in a rushed whisper as my 7-year-old son, Leo, climbed into bed beside me. His small hands trembled as he clutched his stuffed elephant. My husband, Vincent, was downstairs in his office, door closed like every night for the past 6 months. I pulled Leo closer, keeping my voice steady. "What did you hear, sweetheart?" Daddy was on the phone in the car. He didn't know I was awake in the back seat. He told someone named Amber that after the business deal closes, you won't have anything, that you're too trusting to notice. My heart hammered, but I smiled calmly and kissed his forehead. "Thank you for telling me, baby. Everything will be okay." After Leo fell asleep, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. Vincent thought I was too trusting. He had no idea that for the past 3 months, I'd been documenting every suspicious move he made. My lawyer had already received copies of everything. What Vincent didn't know was that I was always 3 steps ahead. My name is Peyton Crawford, and I'm 42 years old. For 13 years, I believed I had a solid marriage with Vincent Crawford, a successful commercial real estate developer. We lived in a beautiful home in Scottsdale, Arizona, with our son Leo. I had put my career as a certified public accountant on hold when Leo was born, but I never stopped keeping my skills sharp. I managed our household finances, maintained our investment portfolio, and kept meticulous records of everything. 3 months ago, I noticed irregularities in our joint account. Small transfers to an account I didn't recognize. Being a CPA, these discrepancies jumped out immediately. Instead of confronting Vincent, I started investigating quietly. I discovered a separate account he'd opened, transfers to luxury hotels, and charges at jewelry stores where he'd never bought me anything. Then I found the text messages on his iPad that he'd forgotten to password protect. Messages to Amber Sinclair, his 28-year-old assistant, about their future together and their plans for after everything was finalized. That's when I started building my case. The morning after Leo's confession, I made Vincent his usual breakfast. Scrambled eggs, wheat toast, black coffee. He sat at the kitchen island scrolling through his phone, barely acknowledging me. "Big day today," I asked pleasantly. "The Riverside Plaza deal closes this afternoon," he said without looking up. "Finally, this project will triple our investment." Our investment. The irony wasn't lost on me. Vincent had been using our joint funds to finance his deals, but the properties were registered under a corporate structure I'd only recently discovered. "That's wonderful, honey," I replied, refilling his coffee. "You've worked so hard on this." He finally glanced up, studying my face. For a moment, I wondered if he suspected anything, but then he smiled that charming smile that had fooled me for months. "Thanks for understanding all the late nights, Peyton. It'll all be worth it soon." Yes, it would be, just not in the way he imagined. I had an appointment with my attorney, Julian Ross, in 2 hours. Vincent had no idea the papers were already drawn up. Julian's office was downtown, far from Vincent's usual routes. I'd been careful about when and where we met, always paying in cash, using my maiden name for appointments. "The corporate structure is clever," Julian explained, spreading documents across his desk. "Vincent established Crawford Development Holdings 6 months ago. He's been transferring marital assets into the company, then registering properties under the corporate name." "But we live in a community property state," I said. "Doesn't that protect me?" "Normally, yes. But if he can claim these were business investments made with business loans, he might argue they're separate from marital assets. The fact that he used joint funds initially is what saves you." Julian pulled out another file. "However, there's something else. The prenuptial agreement you signed 13 years ago." My stomach dropped. We wrote that before Vincent had any real money. I had more assets than he did back then. "Exactly, and there's a sunset clause. After 15 years, it expires completely. You're at 13 years now." Understanding dawned. He's planning to divorce me before we hit 15 years. Julian nodded grimly. "Almost certainly." I drove home in a daze, my mind racing through the implications. Vincent was planning to divorce me within the next 2 years, probably sooner, before the prenup expired. The business deals, the hidden accounts, the corporate restructuring, it was all preparation. And Amber Sinclair was waiting in the wings to step into my life. When I pulled into our driveway, I sat in the car for a moment, hands gripping the steering wheel. Anger burned through me, but I forced it down. Emotion wouldn't help me now. Strategy would. I pulled out my phone and opened the voice recording app. For the past month, I'd been documenting everything. Dates, times, transactions, conversations. Arizona was a one-party consent state, which meant I could legally record conversations I was part of. But I needed more. I needed Vincent to reveal his plans himself. That evening, I suggested we open a bottle of wine and celebrate his successful deal. Vincent seemed surprised, but pleased by my enthusiasm. "To new beginnings," he said, raising his glass. "To truth," I replied, clinking mine against his. Over the next week, I played the perfect, unsuspecting wife. I asked Vincent about his work, praised his business acumen, and suggested we should think about our financial future. "Maybe we should meet with a financial planner," I said one evening. "Make sure everything's properly structured for Leo's future." Vincent's expression shifted slightly. "I've actually been thinking about that. There are some changes we should discuss." "Oh, like what?" "Well, with the business growing, it makes sense to separate business and personal assets more clearly. I've been talking to my attorney about restructuring some things." I nodded encouragingly. "That sounds smart. What kind of restructuring?" He launched into a carefully rehearsed explanation about liability protection and tax optimization. Every word was designed to sound reasonable while hiding his true intentions. I recorded every second of it. Meanwhile, Julian was working on our strategy. The evidence I'd gathered showed a clear pattern of Vincent moving marital assets without my knowledge or consent. The text messages proved intent to defraud. And Leo's testimony, if needed, would establish that Vincent's actions were deliberate and premeditated. 2 weeks after Leo's confession, Vincent announced he needed to take a business trip to Phoenix for meetings with investors. He'd be gone for 3 days. "Amber will be there too," he added casually. "We're presenting the Riverside project to potential partners." "Of course," I said. "Good luck with the presentation." After he left, I called Julian. "He's with her in Phoenix. This is our window." "Are you sure you want to do this now?" Julian asked. "Absolutely. I want him served while he's with her. Let him explain divorce papers to his girlfriend." Julian chuckled darkly. "I'll make the arrangements. The papers will be delivered to his hotel tomorrow morning." I spent that evening with Leo, playing board games and making popcorn. My son deserved stability, and I was going to make sure he got it. "Is Daddy coming home soon?" Leo asked as I tucked him in. "In a few days, sweetie, but I need you to know that things might change a little bit soon. Daddy and I might not live together anymore." Leo's eyes widened. "Because of what I told you?" "No, baby. You did exactly the right thing by telling me. This isn't your fault. Sometimes adults make bad choices, and other adults have to fix them." He hugged me tightly. "I love you, Mommy." "I love you too, sweetheart, always." The next morning at 9 o'clock, Vincent was served with divorce papers at the Phoenician Resort. I knew the exact moment it happened because my phone started ringing immediately. I let it go to voicemail. He called 6 more times in the next hour. I ignored them all. Finally, a text came through. "What the hell is this, Peyton? Call me immediately." I responded simply, "I think the papers are self-explanatory. My attorney will be in touch." Another text, "You can't do this. We need to talk about this like adults." I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded all his messages to Julian, adding them to our evidence file. By noon, Vincent's attorney had contacted Julian. They wanted to negotiate, to discuss options, to reach an amicable agreement. "Tell them we'll see them in court," I instructed Julian. "Vincent wanted to play games with our assets. Now he gets to play by legal rules. That afternoon, I changed the locks on our house. Arizona law allowed it since I'd filed for divorce and had primary custody of Leo. When Vincent came home, he'd find his belongings packed and waiting in the garage. Vincent returned home the next day, furious. He pounded on the front door, shouting my name. I opened it calmly, with my phone recording. "What is this insanity?" he demanded. "You locked me out of my own house." "The house that's in my name from my inheritance," I corrected. "Your belongings are in the garage. The code is the same." His face turned red. "Peyton, this is ridiculous. Whatever you think is happening, you're wrong. We can fix this." "Like you were planning to fix our marriage with Amber Sinclair." He went pale. I don't know what you're talking about." I pulled out my phone and played a recording. His voice came through clearly. "After the divorce is final, we'll have everything we need. Peyton won't see it coming." The color drained from his face completely. "You recorded me. That's illegal." "Actually, in Arizona, it's perfectly legal. One-party consent. I'd think a businessman would know that." Vincent's expression shifted from anger to calculation. "Fine, you want to play hardball. My attorney will destroy you in court. That prenup protects everything." I smiled. "The prenup that expires in 2 years, the one you were racing to beat, my attorney's already reviewed it." His confident expression faltered. The legal battle moved quickly. Vincent's attorney tried to argue that the business assets were separate property, but Julian systematically dismantled every claim. Mrs. Crawford's financial records show that marital funds were used to establish Crawford Development Holdings, Julian presented to the judge during our first hearing. "She has documented every transfer, every investment, and every property purchase. This wasn't a business venture, it was asset hiding." Vincent's attorney, a sharp woman named Diane Foster, countered aggressively. "My client built this business through his expertise and hard work. Mrs. Crawford contributed nothing to these ventures." "Except the initial capital," Julian replied smoothly. "Except the financial management that kept their household running while Mr. Crawford pursued his ventures. Except 13 years of partnership that Arizona law recognizes as community property." The judge reviewed our documentation carefully. Bank statements, transfer records, corporate filings, everything I'd meticulously gathered over 3 months. "Mr. Crawford," the judge said, "did you inform your wife when you established Crawford Development Holdings?" Vincent shifted uncomfortably. "I didn't think it was necessary. It was a business decision." "A business decision, funded with marital assets." "I plan to tell her eventually." The judge's expression hardened. "I'm ordering a full forensic accounting of all assets. In the meantime, all accounts are frozen pending discovery." Vincent's world started crumbling faster than he'd built it. With the accounts frozen, he couldn't access the money he'd hidden. The Riverside Plaza deal required a final payment that he couldn't make. His carefully constructed house of cards was collapsing. Amber Sinclair, faced with the reality of Vincent's situation, quickly distanced herself. According to office gossip that reached me through mutual friends, she'd started dating one of Vincent's business partners within a week. She told everyone Vincent misled her about his financial situation, my friend Monica reported over coffee. Said she had no idea he was married with a child. The whole office knows she's lying, but she's sticking to that story. I almost felt sorry for Vincent. Almost. "How's Leo handling everything?" Monica asked. "Better than expected. He understands that sometimes parents need to live separately. Vincent has visitation rights, supervised for now, and Leo seems okay with that arrangement." What I didn't tell Monica was that Leo had drawn me a picture the night before. It showed 2 houses, one with me and him smiling, one with Vincent alone looking sad. At the bottom, he'd written, "You're the best mommy." That picture was worth more than any property settlement. The forensic accounting took 6 weeks. During that time, Vincent tried every manipulation tactic he knew. He sent flowers with apology notes. He showed up at Leo's school, trying to talk to me during pickup. He even contacted my parents, claiming I was being unreasonable. My father, a retired judge, had one question for Vincent. Did you or did you not hide marital assets in a corporate structure without Peyton's knowledge? Vincent apparently hung up without answering. When the forensic report came back, it was even worse than I'd suspected. Vincent had moved nearly $800,000 in marital funds into his business ventures. He'd purchased properties worth over $2 million, all registered under the corporate name. And he'd taken out loans, using our home as collateral without my signature, loans that turned out to be forged. This is fraud, Julian explained, showing me the report. Clear, documented fraud. Vincent forged your signature on loan documents. That's a criminal offense. What does this mean for the divorce? It means you're going to get everything you're entitled to and more. The judge is not going to look kindly on this. The second hearing was devastating for Vincent. The judge had reviewed the forensic report, and her expression was cold as she addressed him. Mr. Crawford, you forged your wife's signature on legal documents. You systematically moved marital assets without disclosure. You plan to divorce your wife before a prenuptial agreement's sunset clause, specifically to deny her rightful community property. Do you have anything to say? Vincent's attorney whispered urgently in his ear, but he shook his head. Your Honor, I made mistakes, but I built that business. I shouldn't lose everything because of paperwork errors. Paperwork errors? The judge's voice rose slightly. Forgery isn't a paperwork error, Mr. Crawford. It's a crime. She looked down at her notes. I'm ruling as follows. All properties purchased with marital funds are to be liquidated, with proceeds split according to community property law. Mrs. Crawford receives 70% due to Mr. Crawford's fraudulent actions. The family home remains solely in Mrs. Crawford's name. Mr. Crawford will pay child support and spousal support until the settlement is finalized. Vincent stood up. Your Honor, that's... Sit down, Mr. Crawford. I'm not finished. The judge's tone was ice. I'm also referring this case to the district attorney for potential criminal prosecution of the forgery charges. Vincent collapsed back into his chair, face ashen. Outside the courtroom, Vincent's attorney pulled me aside. Mrs. Crawford, my client would like to discuss a settlement. Avoid the criminal charges, agree to the property division, make this clean. I looked past her to where Vincent stood, shoulders slumped, looking 10 years older than he had 3 months ago. What are you offering? Full compliance with the judge's ruling. No appeals. He'll sign over all rights to the properties without contest. In exchange, you ask the DA not to pursue criminal charges. I pretended to consider it, though Julian and I had already discussed this exact scenario. I want full custody of Leo. Vincent gets supervised visitation until Leo is 18, and I want a written confession of everything he did, the hidden accounts, the forged signatures, all of it. Diane Foster's eyes widened. That's quite a demand. Those are my terms. He has 24 hours to decide. I walked away, leaving her standing in the courthouse hallway. Julian caught up with me at the elevator. That was brilliant, he said quietly. The written confession gives you insurance. If he ever tries to contest anything, you have his admission. I learned from the best, I replied. Never leave anything to chance. Vincent signed the agreement the next morning. 23 hours after my ultimatum, Diane Foster delivered the documents to Julian's office. The written confession was detailed and damning. Vincent admitted to every fraudulent action, every hidden account, every lie. Why did he agree so quickly? I asked Julian. Because the alternative was prison. Forgery, fraud, potentially tax evasion. He was looking at serious time. This way, he loses the money but keeps his freedom. The property liquidation took another 2 months. The Riverside Plaza project sold to a development group for $3.2 million. Other properties brought in another $1 million. After debts were settled, I received just over $2 million. Vincent received his 30%, about $850,000, the exact amount he'd stolen from our joint accounts to start his scheme. The irony was poetic. I used part of my settlement to open my own CPA firm, specializing in forensic accounting for divorce cases. My first client was a woman whose husband had been hiding assets in cryptocurrency. Within 3 weeks, I'd tracked down every wallet and every transaction. "How did you learn to do this?" she asked as I presented my findings. "Personal experience," I replied. "The best teacher there is." 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into Amber Sinclair at a charity gala. She was there with Vincent's former business partner, wearing a diamond bracelet that looked expensive. She saw me and hesitated, clearly debating whether to approach or avoid me. I made the decision for her, walking directly over. "Amber," I said pleasantly, "how are you?" She looked uncomfortable. "Peyton, I'm sorry about everything. I didn't know." That he was married, that he had a 7-year-old son, that he was committing fraud. I kept my voice conversational, but my words were sharp. Her face flushed. "Vincent told me you were separated, that the divorce was already in process." "And you believed him?" She looked down. I wanted to believe him. I studied her for a moment. She was young, beautiful, and clearly learning an expensive lesson about believing what you want to hear instead of verifying the truth. "Let me give you some advice, Amber. Always check the facts yourself. Men like Vincent are very good at telling convincing stories, but numbers don't lie. Financial records don't lie. Next time, hire a private investigator before you get involved with a married man." I walked away, leaving her standing alone in her borrowed luxury. Leo adjusted remarkably well to our new normal. He had his own room in our house, decorated exactly how he wanted. Vincent had visitation every other weekend, supervised by Vincent's mother, who had been horrified by her son's actions. "I raised him better than this," she told me when we arranged the supervision schedule. "His father would be ashamed." One evening, as I tucked Leo into bed, he asked the question I'd been expecting. "Mommy, did I do the right thing, telling you about Daddy's plan?" I sat on the edge of his bed, choosing my words carefully. "You did exactly the right thing, sweetheart. You protected me. You were brave and honest, and those are the most important things a person can be." "But Daddy's sad now. He lives in a small apartment. He doesn't smile anymore." "Daddy made choices that had consequences. That's not your fault. When people do dishonest things, they often end up sad. But that's because of their choices, not because of you." Leo thought about this. "Will you ever be friends with Daddy again?" "I don't know, baby. Right now, we're just Leo's parents. We both love you even if we can't live together anymore." He seemed satisfied with that answer. As he drifted off to sleep, I realized that protecting him had been worth every difficult moment of the past year. My CPA firm grew rapidly. Word spread through legal circles that I was exceptional at uncovering hidden assets. Attorneys started referring their divorce clients to me, and my calendar filled up months in advance. I hired 2 associates, both women who had gone through difficult divorces themselves. We understood our clients in ways that went beyond professional expertise. We knew what it felt like to discover betrayal, to feel powerless, to fight for what was rightfully ours. "You saved my life," one client told me after I'd uncovered her husband's offshore accounts. "I thought I'd end up with nothing. Instead, I'm getting everything I deserve." That became my mission statement, helping women get everything they deserve. Vincent's business never recovered. Without access to the capital he'd accumulated, he couldn't pursue new projects. The partners who'd once courted his deals moved on to developers with actual money. His reputation in the industry was damaged beyond repair. I heard through mutual friends that he was working as a project manager for a larger firm now, making a salary instead of running his own company. It was honest work, but it wasn't the empire he'd dreamed of building. Sometimes karma doesn't need help. Sometimes it works just fine on its own. A year after the divorce, Leo asked if he could talk to me about something important. We sat in the kitchen, milk and cookies between us like we were having a formal meeting. "Mommy, I want you to know something. I'm glad I told you about Daddy's plan." "I'm glad too, sweetheart. You were very brave." At first, I felt bad because Daddy got in trouble, but then I realized he was going to hurt you. He was going to take your money and leave us. That would have been worse. I was stunned by my 8-year-old son's maturity. That's exactly right, Leo. Sometimes doing the right thing feels bad at first, but it's still the right thing. Like vegetables, he said seriously. I laughed. Yes, exactly like vegetables. He grinned, then grew serious again. Can I ask you something else? Why did Daddy do those bad things? It was the question I'd been dreading, but also the one he deserved an honest answer to. Sometimes people make choices because they're thinking only about themselves. Daddy wanted more money and a different life, and he forgot that his choices would hurt other people. He forgot that being honest is more important than getting what you want. Will I be like Daddy when I grow up? My heart broke a little. No, baby, you already showed you're different. When you knew something wrong was happening, you told the truth. That's who you are. 2 years after the divorce, I was invited to speak at a women's business conference. The topic was financial independence and protecting assets during marriage. Standing on that stage, looking at hundreds of faces, I told my story. Not for revenge or sympathy, but to educate. I was a CPA and I almost missed the signs, I explained. Because when you love someone, you want to trust them. But trust and verification aren't opposites. They're partners. I outlined the warning signs: unexplained transfers, sudden interest in restructuring finances, secretive behavior about money, new accounts you don't have access to. If you see these signs, document everything. Open your own account that only you control. Consult an attorney before confronting your spouse. Knowledge is power, but only if you act on it strategically. After my speech, dozens of women approached with their own stories. Husbands hiding money in Bitcoin, partners transferring assets to family members, spouses opening credit cards in their wives' names. I gave each woman my card and the same advice. Document everything. Trust your instincts. Hire professionals. You deserve to protect yourself. Driving home that night, I thought about how Vincent had inadvertently given me a gift. His betrayal had revealed my own strength. His manipulation had sharpened my strategic thinking. His theft had launched my career helping other women. Vincent requested a meeting 3 years after our divorce. Through attorneys, he asked if I would meet him for coffee to discuss Leo. I agreed, curious about what he wanted. He looked different when we met, older, quieter, less arrogant. The charm that had once defined him seemed dulled by experience. "Thank you for meeting me," he said, stirring his coffee nervously. "I wanted to talk about Leo's future, college planning, that sort of thing." "I've already established a college fund for him," I replied. "It's fully funded for in-state tuition or partial funding if he chooses private." Vincent nodded. "I want to contribute. I know I can't match what you've saved, but I'd like to help." This was unexpected. "That's generous. I'll set up a separate account you can deposit into." He was quiet for a moment, then said, "Peyton, I owe you an apology. A real one, not the legal maneuvering from before." I waited. I convinced myself that I deserved more, that I'd built everything, that you were just there. I was so focused on what I wanted that I didn't see what I had. He looked directly at me. "I destroyed our family for money I lost anyway. That's a special kind of stupid." "Yes," I agreed simply. "It is." Vincent continued. "Amber left me the moment things got difficult. My business partners disappeared when the money dried up. The only person who's been consistent in my life is my mother, and she's made it clear how disappointed she is in me." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because Leo deserves to know that his father realized he made terrible mistakes, that I'm trying to be better." He paused. "And because you deserved better than what I gave you. You were a good wife, a great mother, and I threw that away for fantasies." I considered his words carefully. This wasn't the Vincent who tried to manipulate me during the divorce. This seemed like genuine regret. "I appreciate the apology," I said finally. "But it doesn't change what happened. You made your choices and I made mine. We both have to live with the consequences." "I know. I just wanted you to know that I understand now. And I'm sorry." We finished our coffee in silence. As we parted ways in the parking lot, Vincent said one more thing. Your firm is getting a good reputation. I hear you're helping a lot of people. I am. That's good. You always were the smart one. He smiled sadly. I just wish I'd been smart enough to appreciate it. Leo turned 10, and I threw him a birthday party in our backyard. Friends from school ran around playing games while parents chatted and sipped lemonade. Vincent came for an hour during his visitation time, bringing a telescope Leo had wanted. Thanks, Dad. Leo hugged him, genuinely happy. I watched Vincent's face as he held our son. There was real love there, mixed with regret for everything he'd damaged. My mother pulled me aside. He looks different, humbled. He should be, I replied. He learned expensive lessons. Are you happy, sweetheart? She asked. Really happy. I looked around at the life I'd built. My successful business, my beautiful son, my peaceful home. No financial stress. No lies, no manipulation. Yes, Mom, I'm really happy. That night, after the party cleanup was finished and Leo was asleep, I sat in my home office reviewing client files. The work was satisfying in ways my old corporate job never had been. I was making a real difference, helping women protect themselves and their children. My phone buzzed with an email from a new potential client. The subject line made me pause. Husband hiding assets, need help urgently. I opened it and began reading her story. It was familiar, the secretive behavior, the unexplained transfers, the gut feeling that something was wrong. I replied immediately, I can help, let's schedule a consultation. 5 years after my divorce, I was featured in a national business magazine. The article was titled, The CPA Who's Changing Divorce, and it highlighted my firm's success in uncovering hidden assets. The reporter asked how I got started in forensic accounting for divorces. Personal experience, I told her. I almost lost everything because I trusted the wrong person. Now I make sure other women don't make the same mistake. The article mentioned that my firm had helped recover over $15 million in hidden assets for clients. It talked about the training programs I developed for other CPAs interested in forensic accounting. It highlighted the pro bono work we did for women who couldn't afford our full fees. What it didn't mention was the small framed picture in my office. The one Leo had drawn years ago, showing 2 houses and his simple wisdom about happiness. That picture reminded me, every day, why I did this work. Vincent called after the article came out. Congratulations on the feature. It's impressive what you've built. Thank you. Leo showed it to me. He's very proud of you. He told me, my mom helps people who are getting tricked just like she didn't get tricked. I smiled. He's a smart kid. He gets that from you, Vincent said quietly. Peyton, I know I've said this before, but I need you to know, I'm genuinely glad you didn't let me destroy you. You deserved better and you made sure you got it. I did, I agreed, and I'll keep making sure other women get what they deserve too. Now, 7 years after that whispered confession from my son, I run one of the most respected forensic accounting firms in the Southwest. Leo is 14, thriving in school, and has a healthy relationship with both his parents. Vincent remarried last year, a woman his own age, a teacher who knew his whole history and chose him anyway. He's learned, finally, that honesty and humility build better foundations than manipulation and greed. As for me, I've learned that betrayal can be a beginning instead of an ending. That trust without verification is just wishful thinking. That protecting yourself isn't selfish, it's essential. I still remember that night when Leo climbed into my bed, trembling with the weight of his secret. My 7-year-old son had saved me with 6 words. Daddy has a lover, and they're going to take all your money. He was right about the lover. He was right about the plan. But Vincent underestimated 2 things: a mother's instinct to protect her child, and a CPA's ability to follow the money trail. The envelope I'd mentally prepared wasn't filled with tears or begging. It was filled with evidence, strategy, and the determination to ensure that neither my son nor I would ever be vulnerable to someone else's greed again. Vincent had thought I was too trusting to notice, too soft to fight back, too dependent to survive without him. He was wrong on all counts. And that mistake cost him everything he'd schemed to steal.